I'm going to now hand the mic to Brian Heatherman of Cerberus Management and IMMF Chairman. And I hope you enjoy this panel. There's a wonderful group of people here today.
Thank you, Rena. I'm going to do this a little Jerry Springer style here. All of these guys have actually been given a DNA test as well, and we'll reveal the results at the end of the panel. We have a spectacular panel. I mean, I've done a bunch of panels here at CMW over the years, and this is, if not, the best, certainly one of the best management panels we've had. So we don't have a lot of time, so we're going to try and move through it quickly and try and get to some issues that hopefully you guys need resolving. Can I get? First of all, I'll let everybody introduce themselves, and then we'll get into some of the questions.
Hi, my name is Benji Grinberg. I am the founder and president of Rostrum Records, which is an independent music label and management company that I started in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania in 2003. And I'm very happy to be here. It's my first time at Canadian Music Week, so thanks for having me.
Hi, Chris Smith of Chris Smith Management, Canadian, 94 till now. From the Philosopher Kings to Nelly Furtado, in between Fifi Dobson, Cat Dahlia, a bunch of stuff, lifestyle management, fitness to sports to chefs to actors, full-on management.
My name is Gilles Paquin, and I am CEO, founder of Paquin Entertainment Group, and I manage Randy Bachman, Bachman & Turner, Buffy St. Marie, and I have a lot of fun doing it. Thank you.
It's great, thank you. I'm Nick Blasco of Amelia Artists, and I'm from Vancouver Island, and I work with Tegan and Sarah, Richard Turfry, Flash Lightning from Toronto here, newcomers, Golden Youth, yeah, happy to be here.
I'm Terry McBride, the CEO of the Network Music Group. On the management side, we handle the careers of many artists. Probably some of the better known would be Fun or Christina Perri, or God, it goes on and on and on. I don't want to go through the roster. It's a rather large roster.
Hello, my name is Volker May. I'm the vice chairman of the IMMF, which is the umbrella organization of 22 national independent trade associations. MMF Canada is one of our members under the umbrella. So besides that, I'm involved in the music business since 32 years. I've done a lot of management stuff for several acts in Germany, and it's the first time that I'm in Canada at CMW.
Well, I guess in my other hat, outside of MMF Canada, my name is Rena Thompson, and I'm the founder and president of Envision Management, a management company based in Montreal. Some of the artists that I manage are Kid Koala and Esmerine.
Okay, thanks, guys. So quickly, can I get a show of hands? Who in this room right now is an artist manager? You're all sitting close to the front. And who is actually an artist? Self-managed artist? Okay, so we're going to go right to questions, because I think what's important is you guys came to learn, hopefully, and we could all talk forever, I'm sure, but the bottom line is you want to get answers to your questions, you want to get some advice. So does anybody out of the gate have questions before I just start randomly picking people? So just give us an idea of what some of the challenges you're facing. Are you manager artist?
I get up in the day, I've got 10 or 12 hours to dedicate to whatever is on my plate in that day. I'm kind of new to the industry, but I'm new enough. It's part of the reason why I came over here, was to try to get a better gut feel for which way to go and where to apply my energy and my time in the day towards, and I'm sorry, for me specifically, I'm working towards getting an EP completed and out there amongst the mass, and I know that's general as well, but hopefully that'll narrow it down a little bit.
I'm sorry, are you an artist or a manager?
Both, sir.
Okay.
I think once you get up to 18 hours a day, then you're doing things right. 10, 12 hours doesn't cut it. If this is what you want to do, you have to live it and live it passionately. So again, it's really quite broad. I mean, there's so many things to do as an artist and so many things to do as a manager. And the world's flat, and there's many continents, and there's many different ways of now approaching this. So unless you can really nickel down your question a little bit, I don't know whether we can really answer it.
I think it's important because it can be overwhelming. I think it's important to take it step by step. And so if you start to think of all the things you have to do all at the same time, you'll get overwhelmed and you won't do any of it. So to me, I would say to focus first, make sure you're comfortable with your music and that you're happy with it, so that, and then you can sort of graduate to the step of, all right, now I'm gonna push it and get it out there and maybe get some PR and maybe, you know, put it up on SoundCloud or put it, you know, however you want to first distribute it to start accumulating fans, and then start to think about touring. You know, you have to sort of take it step by step, because if you try to do everything at one time, you probably won't get very far.
Probably one of the other things is make sure that you're getting to where the income streams are. So if you're not signed up to, one of the performing rights organizations, so that make sure that after all this effort, you're immediately collecting any income that's coming in as opposed to chasing it later.
Yeah, and I'll just add that no matter what level you're at, artist or manager, it takes work. You have to work at it. And there's not one thing that is going to put you on the path or transform things overnight. I mean, your forward momentum and progress is really cumulative, and you have to work at it every day. And, everyone up here reconsiders how they organize their day and where they put their priorities, sometimes moment to moment. And it's a broad question, but one that you're going to ask yourself for a long time. So,
any other questions? I saw some hands over here earlier. Questions. Come on, things can't be that easy. Come on, it's the music business.
Hello, I have a question, not a statement. So speaking as an artist, I guess one of the main questions I would have for a bunch of managers is, what's the main thing that you are looking for when you're signing? Is it like groundwork that they've already laid? Is it live show? Is it overall talent? Is it the fact that you can make money off them? Just kind of curious maybe what it is that each of you guys sort of really look for.
For my end, I just look for, it's not really looking, it's a feeling, it's an emotion, it's something that happens when that artist steps in the room. You just feel it. And it's an audio business, so it's not necessarily about just looking at them. I understand it's extremely visual now with 15 seconds to fame with Vine, or what is it, Instagram? But it really is about an emotion as you walk in and you sit and you have that first connection. And you feel it, and then you try to convince the world of this thing that you feel about said artist.
For me, it's important when I meet an artist and I hear what they're about, and I get into, I want to talk to them, on a very human level, and just get an understanding of what their desires and needs are. And if during that meeting I have a vision for what the next 3 to 5 years would probably look like, and the methods by which I would help them get there, then I know it's a good fit, because it's like, all right, I might be the right person for this artist, because I can see what they're seeing, or I can see the pathway of getting to where they want to go. Even if they're an incredible artist and they have a lot of momentum, if I don't see that path myself, I'm probably not the right person for that artist.
I think so much of the manager-artist relationship is about, a successful one would be about finding the right match. And so for me, aside from feeling that inspiration and feeling that I can visualize where that career is going to go, it's really important that I feel that we could have a good partnership, and that the way we work will be complementary to each other. I
would echo what Chris just expressed, in that, connection, I think, is key with me. If I see an artist, I ask myself, am I connecting with them, their music? Do I see other people connecting with them? And it's sort of a spark, I guess. I get lost in a song and in the possibility, and my mind starts running away about what we could do with them. And sometimes I come to the conclusion that I should just remain a fan, and I tend to stick by that. But it's an intangible thing. But I will say this, when I've seen an artist that I want to work with, it's been a very strong and a very instantaneous type of decision and bond that's been made.
The other thing that's important is the artist's work ethic. And you can sort of sense it fairly immediately, but it's very important these days because an artist has to not only be an artist, but they have to pitch in with their side of marketing, promoting, because of the day and age we're in now, where, you know, with all the socials and everything like that, where they really have to participate in that. So work ethic and understanding of all those things can also be, is really important.
I guess I echo that charisma, that really special quality, and a really sense of vision is really essential. But sometimes, you know, if you just don't like traveling that much, or if you don't have that tremendous drive, and you know, the hardest thing to do is being on the road, is being away from home, is really putting that career first. And so I find that there's some great talents that I've had to walk away from because they just didn't have that drive. And the other thing is if you really, you really need to love this, and you really need to be happy doing it. So you talked about the magic, whatever, but it's really wonderful meeting a young artist and to have that drive, because that helps you keep on going as well. Thank you.
I want to echo what everybody else has said. For me, the essence, though, is I have to love the music. And then upon meeting the artist, I have to intuitively know that they're authentic to what that music is, and that at the end of the day, they're really going to go out there and work it authentically and actually make this world a better place. Without that, I honestly couldn't be bothered.
So for me, it's nothing special to add. So I wanted to support, of course, it's a partnership, and it's not just a one-way direction, and it has also be from the side of the artist. He has to understand and he has to value what we are trying to do and what we are dedicating to develop his career. And so if the partnership is fine, then we can establish a good career, we can work on establishing his career. And especially in Germany or in the European market, there is no long relationship between artists and management, so normally it takes just between 2 and 3 years. I have no idea how it is over here. And but anyway, I think first of all, we have to rely on each other. That is definitely one very important factor within the relationship between the management and the artists.
You guys are all established managers. Is there any books that you guys read that inspired the things that you do, the way that you do it?
Anything. Yeah, anything with information that, see, in the beginning, you just want to get there, right? So you need to acquire the knowledge. So, it's funny when people come into my office and they want to be managers and they're not willing to put the time in, the investment to understand your craft. It's not only really about traveling and touring, it's all things. It's marketing, it's economics, it's a bit of everything. So you just really need to read as much as possible. So after the 18 hours that Terry spoke about, you need to put in that extra 2, reading, okay?
Call it the information-heavy diet in the beginning, for sure. And you take in a lot of things and just ask a ton of questions. Don't be afraid to ask any question. There's no stupid questions. Just ask away. Be a ruthless cold caller as well. Just, if you want it, you just go get it.
Yeah, I'd like to hear the panel's opinions on labels doing 360 deals, and also how big product corporate brands are coming in and looking for sponsor relationships with artists, and how do you go about extracting value? And I'm curious what the value is that can be extracted for a sponsorship type of deal with a international brand.
As far as sponsorships goes, they're really tailored uniquely to each artist. So there isn't really one set way of doing it. The way that we approach it has more to do with, for one, we have to align with the brand. We have to believe in the brand. We have to be a consumer of the brand. The money part of the conversation is actually the last part of the conversation, because without that alignment and it being authentic, we will never touch it. Then it's really about awareness, and it's how much we support what that brand's doing and how we want to communicate that to our fan base. That's more important. That's the abundance of the relationship. Then, the dollars can be anything from whatever the sync fee is on the both master and publishing side to whether you're doing corporate shows around it. There's lots of moving parts within inside any sort of corporate deal. And you will sometimes find they're international, but more than likely they're subcontinental and they're very, very regional. And then you've got to decide whether you want it to be, on the digital and in person. I mean, probably within a sponsorship deal, there's more moving parts than what there is in a recording agreement. So in saying that, there's no set way of doing this. Just make sure that it aligns and it's authentic, and then everything else will work out from there.
Jeff, you said about 360 deals with a label, right? Because I think there's there's 360 deals coming from all sorts of areas, even from managers. And I really think that my gut right now, and one of the reasons I was late is I was involved in a very unusual 360 deals coming out of England from Britain's Got Talent. And I feel that, if it's a really large corporation trying to do a 360 deal, it just doesn't feel as right, On the other hand, if you have a management company that's bringing you something like that, maybe it's a little bit more, it makes more sense, but like Terry says, it really, really depends where you're coming from, right? I think that these kind of deals, they've really been going on for a long, long time, longer than we, I think Colonel Parker with Elvis was doing it, virtually. And so I think that it really, really, it's just like anything else. Each deal is different. But you need to have, I think you always sign more with an individual than you do with a corporation. So that's the only thing I can say about that.
Yeah, I would echo that. I don't have a strong opinion one way or the other on 360s, and that they're right for some artists and they may not be right for others. All of the services that you would see offered in a 360 deal, conceivably, they're all required in an artist's career. Some people have very evolved systems and great people working in those departments already. Why would you substitute that? I mean, there has to be a reason for it. Some people don't have those services available to them. They need a lot of infrastructure and people around them. But it really comes down to, is the work being done? Are you getting good value out of it? And there has to be some checks and balances along the way. And if you're not, you have to have a recourse in your deal to correct that. But I don't have, it's just another deal type. The term is terrible because, I don't know, anyhow. No strong opinion from me on it. Neither good nor bad, just another deal.
Hi, I'd like a little bit more information on, you were talking about the manager-artist relationship. And I manage 3 artists in the Dallas-Fort Worth area in Texas in the US. And 2 of my artists, I have a more traditional, take a percentage off of the top kind of contract. And then one of my artists, we have a less traditional business model where we've actually formed an LLC and I share in the profits of that, like a shareholder kind of arrangement. And so my question specifically, with the non-traditional business model, we recently had to replace a lead singer because he just became obstinately uncooperative to an extreme extent, too drunk to perform, just arguing against all the strategic moves that we were creating, arguing with everything about any of the branding, basically anything that we were trying to do, he was fighting against. And in the model that we have set up, fortunately, when we were out of damage control options, when it just got to the point where we were like, you are not in this with us, we're not working together as a team, something has to be done. I was able to create a way to rebrand, find a new singer, and in our non-traditional situation, we were essentially able to vote to buy him out of his shares of the company, and we were able to recover in a short amount of time. The question that I'd like to know more about that management-artist relationship is in a more traditional setting, I would like some insight as to say how I might handle the same challenges with an incredibly obstinate artist with a very different contract situation, if you have any experiences. Because after that, I was like, wow, I would be completely unprepared to deal with this in any other kind of setting. Like if I'm still on contract with someone and I don't have that kind of leverage for us to work as a team to try to repair the situation. So I would just like some professional insight on that.
Where I come from and what I'm comfortable with is the understanding that managers in the traditional sense are in the service business. When you're in the service business, at some point you're going to get fired. You know, to me, if you can last 10 years with an artist, that's a home run. If you can last 20 years, that's a grand slam. So you need to understand that, and you need to understand that the artist dramas are the artist dramas. Created by the artist, you know, energized by the artist, and owned by the artist. You as a manager don't own their dramas. You're there for the strategy, you're there for the intelligence, you're there to actually drive a career. Usually, if there's a train wreck coming at me, I go, you know what, this is not what I signed up for. Thank you, bye, and I move on. I don't fight bitterly to keep it because they need to go do their own work and be really comfortable and confident in who they are, or they're going to have a very hard time being successful. What I will say to managers, and I think Jill touched on this a little bit, is you need to build some sort of retirement plan for yourself if you're in the service business. So having some ownership with inside the intellectual property, so going to the LLC model that you talked about, gives you a little bit of insurance that if you do get fired, you at least have some ongoing value for all the energy and commitment that you've put in to that artist and that intellectual property up to that date. So I think that's essential because in most cases, the manager will have a sunset clause, but you can't take a sunset clause to a bank. It has little to no value. It's a pure cash flow. So I think for long-term strategic thinking of any manager or any management company, they must think about having some sort of plan that understands that you will lose artists along the way, and there's a way of recouping the value that you added to that career. Labels and publishers have it, managers should have it too.
Hey guys. I'm noticing one of the big trends in the industry these days is a shift from labels to independent releasing. And a lot of the up-and-coming entry-level artists that I speak to, they have this image that the labels are evil, blah, 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 blah. And now they're saying, okay, well, let me try and do it on my own. But what I'm noticing is that they're relying very, very heavily on managers. And I was wondering if you could maybe speak on, the shift in the role of the manager, some of the specifics in, the future of the industry.
Well, from my end, I've set up a management company that mirrors a traditional label system. I find, especially here in Canada, most of the record companies, while we might have as experienced managers strong relationships with label heads, there aren't a lot of qualified or people under them with balls, or just most of them suck. So I tend to build my own system. I'm not going to go too crazy with it, but it's the truth. In that, look, you just need to build your team, have confidence in your artists, and go for it. Relying on the major label system, I think that's sort of old news. While I have the majority of my clients with the major labels as partners, we think from an independent mindset. So think independent, and then you'll become a great major label artist at some point when you find the appropriate manager.
I completely agree. Myself, signing a new artist, probably the first thing I'm probably going to do is invest in that artist financially as well. And whether that be in people or just financially, whether it's recording. And the other thing is quite often, and yes, we've expanded marketing, whatever, and some of the artists that I have are they've been around a little bit longer, and in that, to that point as well, not only I find that music, in order to exploit it as much as possible, I've had to create specials, television specials, documentaries, just as a vehicle, other than just using traditional radio and traditional touring, just to, so it really, you know, I have a whole team in order to, and then we look for partners, whether it's a label or whether it's a producer or whatever, you know, so.
I think the lines are getting increasingly blurred between what the management company does and what the label does. And in my case, I started a record company, an independent record company that essentially evolved into also being a management company simply by necessity, because our artists either weren't finding appropriate managers or just didn't have management at all. And in order to really get everything moving forward, we just ended up picking up the pieces, and then it ended up becoming part of essentially what we do over time. So you can slice it any type of way. It can be a manager who then sort of develops an infrastructure to help release records for their artists, or like me, where we had an infrastructure to release records and sort of developed more of a management infrastructure to help further their careers in other ways. But any way you slice it, we're all in the artist development business, and you can call it a management company, you can call it a label, but ultimately, you know, it's there. We're all just trying to build the artist's career and be the support system for them, no matter what you call it.
Hi there, my name is Laura Bittner. I'm an independent artist. I'm just wondering how an artist can go about finding the right manager if their music doesn't fit specifically into one genre. Some artists, like myself, I'm kind of in multiple genres of folk and experimentalism. And if you're someone that wants a broad career, what do you look for in a manager, and when's the right time?
Like we were saying before, if you meet someone who understands what you're trying to do and understands the vision and can help support you in it, I think that's ultimately the most important thing. You know, if you're across many genres, you know, that can be difficult. And so, you know, maybe finding someone that can help you, you know, focus in, or, you know, or who gets it and says, yeah, we can do this exactly the way you're talking about it, and help guide you there.
Sometimes I think it could be helpful to think about who some of the artists you appreciate are, or who other like-minded artists might be, and look at who they've surrounded themselves with, and maybe look at that as an entry point to finding who could be on your team.
I think more often than not, a manager finds you as opposed to you finding the manager. Ultimately, you have to be doing something that's creating enough of energy and enough momentum that a manager of any level wants to be involved in and can take it to the next level. Because there's a certain point where managers can only take you at a certain point. They can't take you literally from almost next to nothing. It's rare, I think, that you just find somebody from day one and all of a sudden you take them all the way. It's a very rare thing.
I also think it's important, with your point about diversity. Every artist should have the right to be diverse and to cross genres when they want to, but understand that, especially in the beginning, there has to be a thread between these things. And really, you know, I think it's smart to really look at the art that you're creating and say, well, what is the reflection of this? What does this look like? Am I all over the place, or is my songwriting the same? Is it transcending all these different genres I'm doing, or what am I putting forward? And I think that, you know, again, I think every artist has the right to try different things, and some of the most successful artists have made a career of reinventing themselves every 4, 5, 6 years. But in the beginning, I think it is important to make sure you have some focus and people can understand what you're doing. Yeah.
I just want to say one last thing. Just hone your craft, whether it's songwriting, performing. Just hone the craft. Really, that's what you have to do. You really need to. I mean, that's what you need to. I mean, yes, you research and everything else, but often people, and that can come earlier or later in life, depending. But research, you know, just my daughter's a ballerina, so I don't manage her, but the work ethic is unbelievable in that world. And sometimes I find that people come and they're just not ready. They're not prepared. And I just feel that it really, really You know, it's just rehearsal, it's practice, it's just hone your craft. Thank you.
Hey guys, I was just wondering what you guys thought of self-managed artists, because from what Brian said, normally a manager will find the artist, and it's not generally not the other way around. So if that doesn't happen, do you just realize that you suck, or do you go on managing yourself?
Well, I mean, I have to say a lot of the artists that Network has managed over the last 30 years have been nobodies when we actually found them, because we love the music. So I think a self-managed artist is probably a much more intelligent and smarter artist, and will realize when they're after that help, so that they can go back to being what they love doing versus what they have to do. But you know, there's certain managers that look for artists that are at a certain level, and there's certain managers that don't care whether they're at the bottom or whether they're at the top. It's whether it resonates with them or not.
Having an effective self-manager or a leader within a group, I think, can be great. I think one of the things that we see sometimes as managers is that the moment a manager gets involved, that spark or that leader or that manager within the group pulls back and doesn't work as hard. And I think that, you know, if you're getting a manager because you want to work less, it's the wrong reason. You have to, you know, a manager can add some gas to the fire, but that fire's still got to be burning there. You know, so yeah.
I completely applaud self-managed artists. I think that's where you have to start.
Yeah, I mean, it's necessary at the beginning stages to do that, and a lot of artists manage themselves at the beginning. And even if it's taking a little while, you know, I wouldn't get discouraged and say, well, I must not be that great if no one's approaching me. It's, you know, it takes a long time, and you just have to stick with it. And, you know, eventually when things start happening, you'll want someone else to come in, you know, and people will be approaching you, but you'll want it because you have to focus on, you know, your core purpose in the band, you know. But I would absolutely stick with it.
Good morning. My name is Phoenix, and I have a question for the panel. Is there a point where you have to raise private equity to grow a project for an artist? And just to add to that question, is anyone on the panel looking at crowdfunding as a form of branding to grow the artist's brand?
So crowdfunding is a form of branding?
Yes.
Or a source of revenue?
Both.
Okay. I didn't look at that as a form of branding, but it's an interesting notion. Some of the artists that I work with have dabbled in crowdfunding in terms of very specific initiatives. Years ago, I used to do things in merchandise, you know, lots of pre-orders and stuff, which is essentially crowdfunding initiatives. But I mean, yeah, there's a lot of systems right now that are allowing people to raise substantial sums of money. How those things really take off is with an existing sort of social groups and people that are rallying behind an artist. So, yeah, I don't have any personal stories to recount in terms of like really successful crowdfunding campaigns that I've been part of, but I certainly see them going on. And I've never looked at it through the lens of branding. What does it mean to be a crowdfunded artist? What does that say about you? It's an interesting notion.
I'll probably talk to this, being that we've had a number of artists do it in many different ways, and that being one. For one, there's always a need for capital. I think to go the VC route, though, is not the way to go, because you don't have alignment. VC is looking for an ROI, it's looking for a time frame, and nothing within inside an artist's career is a direct line to exit. So that kind of delineates that out of the picture. I think companies strategically can do it, but artists individually, I think you're bringing the wrong person in the room. As far as crowdfunding goes, there's so many different ways of doing it these days. I do think it creates brand awareness. I also think it creates fan engagement, which I think is even more crucial. But it is part of your brand if, as an artist, you accept the reality that you are a brand. So I think through that, it has to work for you, and it's got to be authentic to you. I can't emphasize that more. You can't look at all of these options as just ways to raise money. It's got to intuitively say this is the right thing to do. So that's how I would approach it.
I've been involved in live production for quite quite a while. And from a manager's perspective, in terms of building up the relationship between the manager and the artist and keeping the brand promoted, where do you get involved in terms of building your production team, in terms of your PA, your staff, front of house, etc.? Do you guys get involved directly with that?
Well, in my company, we have a rehearsal space attached to the office. So while I'm making phone calls, I can hear the band rehearsing, and it's not always pleasant for them because I'll run back and make corrections, and I'm always in the mix. But I find it really useful to be a part of the entire development phase of the artist, from the first rehearsal, the first note, all the way through to producing the multi-truck tour. So that's how I approach it.
I was just going to say that the production design, if you will, and from the lighting to the sound to how the show looks, it really is driven by the artist. In most cases, they have a clear vision for what they want, and so then our job becomes going to find skilled people to execute that vision. In the cases where our opinions don't align with that of the artist, I mean, it can be, you resolve it one way or the other. Typically, the artist wins, but I don't profess to be an expert in how to put together a multi-truck tour, but I know people who can do it. So you build things appropriate in scope and to the vision. And I guess it all starts with the vision. What's affordable, what's feasible, what's realistic.
I love getting involved in the rehearsal process and everything else. Sometimes I'm asked to not give my opinion as much, but I do ultimately depend on the artist to guide even the production to a certain degree. But you also have to have really fantastic tech people, tour managers, and production people involved. So, but I enjoy that part anyways.
I'll add this in that when I see new bands, I really do take notice to what they're doing with the production. It's not just the sound or simple things. I really, to me personally, it resonates with me when I see people putting effort into the show, not just thinking about the music, but everything that accompanies it. Even in the smallest venues, the smallest little changes can be so effective and powerful. So it's something to think about for sure, how you want to be presented and how the show looks.
My approach is very hands-on, from the point of the conceptualization to the realization. And so I always feel like a big part of my role is to sort of find that balance between the creative and the practical, to sort of get the idea out there and execute it in a way that is feasible. And so in that way, I will be involved in every aspect. But of course, to a certain point, if we need tech people, we bring in tech people. If we need production people, we bring in production people. But just keeping that constant dialogue about what the vision is, how we can realize it, and how we can sort of circumvent any challenges that come up upon the way, I find that to be an important part of my role.
Hey, if you guys started working with a new artist whose vision you really believed in and sound you really believed in, but they didn't have the financial resources to be able to go out and record an album, and they didn't have the money they needed to be able to make it happen, would you guys be willing to invest in the artist's career from something like, give me the money as like a loan with some points, or being financially invested in the career and owning a percentage or piece of the artist, anything like that, like those types of situations, or any other deals that you've seen before?
Well, I've never met an artist with money, a new artist, so I've always had to invest. That's how we do it.
I think if you're going to put energy in, abundance comes in many different ways, and when we invest in an artist, it's not just our like energy and our knowledge and our team. We usually invest in the artist. What Network tries to do is to have some part of the intellectual property, whether it's publishing, whether it's master, and we can add value to that. So that's kind of our approach to it. But it's very rare for us just to purely manage an artist. Usually there's a piece of the intellectual property there, even if it's the first album that we fund to get it off the ground. In the case of Fund, you know, we funded the first album. You know, so we have a piece of their intellectual property, which makes it great when, you know, we break it through. So there's many different ways of approaching it, but I think in general, if we're going to invest in an artist, we're investing in the artist.
I've invested in artists, obviously, and co-invested. The one caveat I'll say to all that is tremendous transparency, and I always try to be, whether the artist has a business manager or the artist is a new artist, really make great efforts to make you know, how the deal works as transparent, as clear as possible. Because if it doesn't go well, or if it goes very well, you know, you just want to avoid these kind of problems.
How do you decline a label offer without burning that bridge? Or better yet, how much time do you really have while remaining professional to mull an offer over and to pursue other offers?
I'll answer the first part. I think as long as you treat everyone with respect and, you know, even if you turn it down, as long as you're acting professionally and you ask the right questions, or you know, you give them a reason, or just communicating in general is very important. You know, no one likes to put out an offer and then just not hear from somebody ever again. You might burn some bridges that way. But as long as you communicate and say, thank you for this offer, and, you know, this is just not the right time for us, or it's not the right situation for us right now, but let's stay in touch. Whatever it is to keep that relationship alive, I think that's what's important, is just the communication, no matter what the result of the deal is.
Honesty, honesty, honesty. If you decline something, it's just an opportunity for that party to come back to you later. Just be honest about it. Don't try and play games. It goes a long ways.
Hey guys, I'm Esma. I'm an urban pop singer-songwriter. I infuse Middle Eastern sound in my music. And my question is, if an artist wants to submit their music to you guys, is it better if the artist directly does it to build that connection you guys were talking about, or should they get, for example, an entertainment lawyer to do it on their behalf or set that up?
I don't think it matters, frankly. I mean, all I say is, please don't give me a CD. Please don't email me MPEG 3s. Send me a link with a URL to like the music, but also research who you're approaching. To see whether they have similar artists, similar tastes, because that's obviously where their passion sits. So when I get approached with music that I might respect, I might be a fan of, but I don't work with, then, you know, I'm just going to tell you it doesn't really fit what network does. So keep that in mind. Research who you're going after.
Okay, I think we only have, looks like we only have 1 minute left, but I wonder, I don't want to put anybody in the spot, but is there any sort of parting words that each of you have, either a recommendation for a manager or a self-managed artist, things to focus on? I know we've covered a lot of that already, but if there's, you know, maybe one word, whether it's passion or something like that, just like you all to sort of just wrap up and say anything.
I think it's just important to stay knowledgeable about what's going on in the business in general, the new ways of promoting yourself or your band or your artist. I think that's one of the most important things in staying relevant as a manager, is just knowing, you know, everything that's going on, not only reading books or, you know, brushing up on your, you know, business acumen or whatever it is, but staying knowledgeable about what, you know, what the new technologies are, what the artists are doing, keeping your ear to the street, so to speak. And I think that's very important.
You know, I've been doing this for 20 years and I've never been this excited about management. Absolutely love my job. I think it's exciting times for music and I'm looking forward to the next 20 years, so that's all.
I agree, I was going to say, really be true to yourself. Be as true to yourself as you can be and try to know yourself. Thank you.
I would agree with that. Be passionate, and I would agree with Chris in that this is a very exciting time. There's change all around us, but there's amazing pieces of technology. There's, and it's music is the music business is a purely entrepreneurial venture. I think it always will be to a certain extent. So be passionate, be positive, get excited about it. And if you really love it, then you should do well at it.
Delete your ego, follow your intuition.
Keep the passion alive, and management is responsible to create the ecosystem for the artist.
I'd say know yourself, always aim to improve yourself, be respectful of those you meet along the way.
Okay, well, I just want to thank these folks. If you can give them a round of applause. They're busy, folks.